hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
It is time. We are back on the set. Zach Kyleman here hosting. I've actually been away longer than some of these gentlemen here, but it is around the UFL. And boy, it's a big day in the United Football League. It is a massive day for the fans, massive day, I think, for the future of spring football with this announcement and discussion we are going to have today. And boy, we have a big chat for pre-show and leading in. So we've got a lot to talk about, and we have a lot of stuff to listen to you guys in chat. Before we dive in, before we get into the subject matter, as expansion is a little more than just a speculation zone topic anymore, let's talk to the rest of the cast that joins us today from our motley crew. I always go clockwise. So Ducky's giving us a happy Thanksgiving on the other side. It is week of Thanksgiving, so hope you guys have great travel plans. Ducky, what are you doing for Thanksgiving, pal? I'm going to ask everyone here what we're doing for Thanksgiving. So what are you doing?
Eating turkey, eating ham, eating stuffing, trashing the Battlehawks, all that good stuff.
Sounds like a well-balanced diet on your end. Great choice. It is good to see you here. Nick Thorne joins us, the resident roster and stats man himself over there on the East Coast. Nick, how you doing, man? What's your Thanksgiving plans, my guy?
Start to relax a little bit here. For people who don't know, I also work for Taos, and our season just ended, so things have cooled down a little bit. School, cooling down a little bit. So I'm just enjoying some free time for once. That's really how I'm going to enjoy this week and Thanksgiving as a whole.
As we've learned about football operations, somewhat season round, but at least you get some breaks. So I'm happy you get some time for yourself, and good for you. And keep up the good work, man. It's awesome to hear about your journey over there at Townsend. So keep that up. Meanwhile, on the bottom, we got a man dressed looking like he should be on the field as always, but
just wait.
He's still working on it.
Just wait.
Guys.
I got a feeling it's going to be an early Christmas, and I don't want to ruin the surprise, boy. I feel like Santa Claus got a big old sack for me this year.
I think I know what's coming, but I won't say it. I won't say it.
Whoa. All right, Rep.
2
minutes into the episode, we're already bringing out the big guns.
People say, people online acting like I lost it, but no, here I am dropping them right away. Here I am, ref, signed
Act
up.
like he never left.
Man, I have so many thoughts on expansion too. Boy, I cannot wait to jump right into it. Zach, I know you text me, but I'm going to use the opportunity of us being live right now to respond. I think I read through your text. Yeah, we should probably find some time to do a thing. So we'll connect it. But everybody look forward because we'll have an episode out there over there on the other show soon. And here's what Stevie T better be in this chat. I mean, he better be in this chat. If he's going to bust my balls online about not doing the show, you better be here. You just sign you up. And look, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got it all twisted. I feel like me and Stevie T got like a friendly like banter relationship online.
Yeah, it's about as friendly as Anthony Becht and AJ McCarron.
Well, some have told me, no, I don't know if Stevie T actually likes you. I don't believe that. I think Stevie T might be my biggest fan. And I'm his biggest fan.
We got to openly discuss. It's just side note. It's funny. I was not mentioned in the Stevie T post this time. I was left out. It's like, am I clear? Am I not special enough for the beef anymore? Which one is it?
I like it. I'm so signed up on that. No, I'm telling you, next time I'm in Birmingham, me, Stevie T, that is going to be like it's going to be like making peace in the Middle East when him and I have our like summit at, I don't know, there was some kind of grill place out there. Maybe that gas station restaurant anyway, I'm taking up all the James's thunder here.
We'll keep going. I think I know which one you're talking. We'll keep going here. Finally, I got to get to the insider here, Mr. James Larson, as our final piece here. Getting ready for expansion to happen, as we have said. And look, been a lot of stuff. We've also been on the side following up with the league. A lot of drama around the league, a lot of other things going on around the league we'll try and get to. But I mean, James, today's the big caboodle here. It's not only expansion talk, it is almost setting the course for future talks about what the league's going to be, not 1 year, but 2 years. We're hearing now, like multiple years ahead of advance, not just let's see what next year holds, but like within the next 2, even farther down the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times because, for the longest time we have, and you know what, actually, before I get into my answer, I didn't get to share my Thanksgiving plans. So
I'm so sorry.
I feel like that's important. The audience really wants to know.
The Stevie T aura has messed me up.
My Thanksgiving plans are that.
Oh,
so
we lost you.
For Thanksgiving, then moving on to answering the question about.
I'm stupid. Never mind.
I just edged the audience on that one.
Oh my God.
Anyways, expansion. Look, I mean, we've been talking about it for years, literally on this show or on other shows on this podcast about how important it is for spring football to walk, crawl, and then run. So crawl, walk, run. Guys, I'm all over the place right now. It's not even funny.
Daryl Johnston would be breaking into this chat right now and be talking to you. Ref versus Stevie T.
All right. Lock back in. Look, I mean, for the league to be openly talking about expansion is a great sign because right after season 1, a lot of people thought that we would have seen expansion in season 2. Originally, that's kind of what we were thinking as well. But for the league to now, after they already had put out, like, no, we're not expanding. 2025 is going to be 8 teams again. For them to come out this early in the offseason before season 2 and talk about expansion and put it out there, I think it's a great sign for the longevity that this league has and the potential it has to continue to grow with more partnerships, more cities, more markets, and just more big things on the way.
Tons ahead. I mean, gentlemen, feel free to jump in, but I will read off Russ Brandon's comments from today's press release on the matter. So I'll do this real quick, and then whoever wants to jump in next, feel free. So Russ Brandon states, quote, as the UFL lays groundwork for future growth, we're excited to begin exploring new markets for expansion where spring football can not only live but thrive. These expansion efforts validate our vision and early success, demonstrating how spring football resonates with fans and reinforcing our commitment to broadening its reach. With the strength and structure of our ownership group, along with our media partners, we are well positioned for the long haul and look forward to identifying communities that have potential and desire to host a UFL team. And I think the key, and I feel free to jump in, I think the key is going to be the community part on that specific discussion. They talk a lot about fan base engagement. and what might be opportunistic for that. But I feel like the communities are going to play a role in trying to, if they're interested, lure a property like this to them.
I agree, Zach. I agree. Which brings me to my first point in really all of this is, okay, if you're going to expand, you're probably, maybe, potentially might want to look at markets that you played in before. Now, I'm going to throw an easy one out there, a one that's a no-brainer, if you ask me, because if we bring back, or when they bring back, the Houston Gamblers, they already got the greatest community that there is, the best fan base that there ever. I mean, the twos of us in those crowds. When we were out in Memphis, we were the loudest there. Now, I will also say this. You got the stadium. Boom, sign you up. Just throw them in TDECU. Put them on every game. Roughnecks versus Gamblers. And I'll tell you the outcome, 12-0.
Both teams?
Two Houston teams? Ooh.
Break my logic.
How do you pick one then? Which one do you have?
We're both going to win. They're both going to be undefeated.
Wow.
I think if you want a team to go 12-0, playing the Houston Roughnecks every week is probably a good strategy.
I mean, Memphis proved that last year too. So,
touche.
Memphis, needed that win so bad that they had Coach DiFilippo crying because he finally beat the Roughnecks the end of the season. So he was shedding tears.
He walked off into the sunset with at least a win. It's a good note.
We miss Coach Flip, man.
I know. It's too bad. It's too bad.
I'll still stand by this. If he would have twerked out there, that record would have been reversed. He'd be twerking his way right into the season 2 of the UFL.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out if Coach Wisenhunt will be doing this team in Memphis. But I guess to talk a little bit more about the expansion, I think it'll be really interesting to see. It seems pretty clear that 2026 they'd be aiming for 10 teams, right? Adding 2, and then I know Mike Mitchell over at UFL and SI is saying 2027 the ideal would be to have 12. You expand to 12 teams by 2027. That's 4 new markets. You're basically expanding the league by 50%. Is that something that the league can realistically take on financially? That remains to be seen. And and something that the league has done pretty well so far is at least doing their best to not bite off more than they can chew. And one would assume that, if they do expand to 10 teams in 2026, that they're definitely not expanding to 12 unless they are really, really in good shape financially. And if we see them expand to 12, that to me would be a sign that this league is around to stay for a long time. Because why would you be expanding to 10 and then 12 within a year of each other if you weren't set financially? So not only does that mean that the league is hopefully in decent standing as is right now, but also could mean that we might be in the process of seeing some bigger partnerships along the way with, more money, more income coming in, which means that they have more money to do things with. And, that to me, you gotta put the pieces together sometimes in the spring football scene. And that's more speculative than anything. But if the league is genuinely looking at expansion like this, that to me tells me that there are some bigger things on the way when it comes to partnerships and money coming in.
Now, this is something. Go on.
I fully agree. I think this paired with a recent announcement that kind of flew under the radar that they're going to go to Europe to do a showcase event.
That did not get covered enough, Nick. I can't believe that people passed over that so quickly.
Yeah, I think those both, and admittedly, both of them are not that crazy of there's not a ton to chew on with either of those announcements individually. Obviously expansion, there's a lot of rumors, but as far as what they actually said, they basically said hey, we're expanding to how many, we're not going to say where, we're not going to say we're expanding though, right? And I think those two kind of go to show either intentionally to try to give off this effect, or actually that the league's pretty confident it's going to stay. You wouldn't be if it's been heavily rumored about make or break season, and that might still be the case. I'm not saying necessarily that is or isn't, but the fact that they're doing all this is interesting. It shows a clear okay, we need to think beyond this year, whether to drum up interest for 2025 or because we genuinely need to start making steps in the right direction. We need to start doing more, not less, where it feels for a couple years there it was kind of either status quo or less, in these kind of leagues. It was, we're not going into all 8 markets. We're going to have the hub, and we're cutting down on costs. This is not cost cutting. This is the opposite on all fronts. So that's really my takeaway is like, oh, hey, they are planning to do more, not less.
Yeah, it takes me back to conversations that Zach, you and I probably had more than the rest of the group here in the early days of the USFL podcast, where as they would make different announcements or form different partnerships, or, especially as they were going into Ford Field, I remember saying, it's the story itself is the story, but there's also the backbone of legitimacy for, fans of, let's say, the NFL that haven't given spring football a chance in the past. And so when they might see an article go out today or in the next couple of days that says, here's our process for looking at expansion, they're not going to look at all those words. They're going to say, oh, UFL and expansion. And you would expect that their thought process would be aligned of, well, that's a good thing, right? For all the reasons that you just mentioned, Nick. Right. And so I agree. I think this is good for the league. Now I'm curious because you had said something, but I want to touch on the point of, not necessarily going backwards, but using a mixed approach of what we've seen the USFL do in the past. Does anybody here anticipate some type of hub situation? I missed the one that came up on the screen. So
there you go.
There we go. Sign them up.
Back at it.
Go on.
I just want a complete tangent, but one of my favorite things today was just scrolling through comments and seeing the absurd suggestions of where they should put a team, because everyone's like, it's like Barcelona, like, just any.
I mean, they put a team in St. Louis. They can't get much worse than that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, UFL ELF merger confirmed, guys. This is what's about to happen in a few
Yeah, let's
years.
put one in Tokyo,
Actually, sign them up.
Yeah.
Whoville expansion.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well,
World Football League makes a comeback.
When it comes to expansion itself, couple of nuggets that I've picked up on is, for one, and this is just kind of an obvious thing. Like, obviously, they're looking at some of the markets they already were in. I mean, we had 16 teams that went down to 8. Granted, the USFL wasn't in most of their markets, right? I mean, they're only in a few of them, whereas the XFL, they were in all 8. And a market that I would keep an eye on, one that was already previously in spring football, would be the Pacific Northwest, specifically Seattle. I mean, that was a very successful market in 2020. They did see a lot of success in 2023. It wasn't on the same level as 2020, so it didn't get as much attention. But if you look at the numbers that Seattle was putting up, and another thing is, Seattle was a big moneymaker for the XFL in 2023. They did make a lot of money playing there with decent fan turnouts. That market would have been one of the best performing markets in the UFL. So that's something to keep an eye on. Another aspect of it too is apparently, and who knows how all this might actually be working behind the scenes, but apparently the XFL had paid for a couple years up front with these venues, which if that's the case, technically they would be able to use Lumen Field again for another season, and it already would be paid for and covered. That's a pretty big expense that apparently could already be knocked out. Seattle, in my opinion, if you want to get back out west, that is one of the best markets to go to. Granted, it is one that has an NFL team. I know I'm more the type of guy that wants to see them expand to the cities that don't have NFL teams, but Seattle's already proven itself to be one of the better markets, and you've already been established there not once but twice. So there is definitely potential there for that fan base to come back. Now, a couple of cities that don't have teams or haven't had teams and don't have NFL teams that are on the radar. Columbus, Ohio is one that I've heard mentioned quite a bit over the last few months. I know it was a city that the USFL was looking at back in before the merger even happened. And the last few months, there's definitely been more and more talks about Columbus potentially being an option. You also have Louisville, Kentucky. That's another city that, I mean,
Louisville's prime if you get the right deal.
That doing well. I mean, with some of the TV ratings that they put up in spring football, they don't have an NFL team. That's an opportunity right there. And then you've got some other outliers floating around. Salt Lake City, that was a city that was in the AAF and did all right with the Salt Lake Stallions. But, I mean, it was the AAF, right? I mean, if you actually have good marketing and if you have a league like the UFL that's here to stay, or at least hopefully is, that's a city that we could see do better. And maybe even Oklahoma City. That was one that could potentially be thrown out there. You never really know. I mean, ultimately, the two that I'd be more confident in would be Columbus and Louisville, because those are the two that I've heard quite a bit. But the league's doing their due diligence. They're definitely looking at a lot of options.
Let me ask you, just because I see it in the comments here, Oakland feels like
A lot of people
it
been
could
bringing
be
up
prime
Oakland.
pick
Yeah.
because they lost everything.
I mean, think about Oakland or San Diego. Like one of those two has to get a team at some point, and that to me is what we'll see is when we have more expansion. And if we can have more divisions, maybe we have a West division that features a Seattle and
They could
a
also
Seattle and a San Diego or Oakland.
They
Either
could
one.
relocate teams like St. Louis to LA or something like that.
Oh my God. We are off to a great start for next year.
I bet you AJ McCarron would come back.
No, I want I want the beef. Man, I'm here for the beef. Storylines. This man's been throwing wrestling promos on podcasts like he's ready to come back in. He's ready to duel.
There's
another story though.
I don't want to stray away. So, Ducky, have you picked a new team yet? I know there were rumblings behind the scenes, but have you picked a new team?
I mean,
Oh my God.
nothing.
Now, let me ask you.
baby.
Let me ask you this. What if, like, next week it comes through the line, AJ McCarron to the Showboats?
Ooh.
Well, the one thing after being a Maulers fan, I know that you can score on defense instead of offense. So,
So you'll take it. You'll take it. A win's a win.
You hit up Bill Alexander. You're gonna be best friends with the boat captain over there.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, you
Sure,
have
fine.
like a whole new. See, I mean, those Showboats fans. What's the
Yacht
group?
Club.
Yacht Club. Thank you, Ducky. Of course you would know. Of course you would know.
He's ready.
Yeah, you're ready. You
Well,
can get a spatula.
A big part of it is look at the hoodie that he's wearing. I mean, we know Boogie's back.
Oh, you know.
We got to get him back on the show, but more importantly, he's back on a roster. He signed with Memphis, so I'm excited to see him return. And I mean, Ducky, I think it's pretty obvious where you were going once that news broke.
Hey, James, can I circle back on this? So I threw the poll in the chat here on the focus of expansion, because I think that's the other big topic that's getting thrown around a lot of the circles online right now is where do you focus on? You know, we hear about the TV discussion, you know, remember the USFL strategy, more TV viewers on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi, you know, but we just talked, you know, Oakland's a market that's very open and available. They'd probably, I would say, roll the red carpet out if you would say for a team to come over there and get some sort of interest in that market once again. You know, Seattle's fans have been wanting back. We've been talking about San Diego for several years now, and now that they've got an established football fandom again with the San Diego Aztecs. I mean, which one do you focus? I'll give you my quick take before I want to hear yours or your guys's. If they go West Coast, you got to do two teams at the same time. You can't do one and then a one-off. I'm learning more about this industry. I know some people don't like to hear it. I'm telling you, the logistics do matter. Jeff Fisher was on an interview recently for his AF1 commissionership talking about the USFL struggles with travel. The cost of travel is a bane on these leagues. You really have to consider that when you're going and putting a Seattle team on the complete opposite side of the country away from everyone else. So you really need a second one, I think, to pull that off. And you can do that if you focus exclusively on expansion in the West Coast for that specific cycle, is how I feel.
I agree with you there, Zach. And as for the San Diego Oakland debate, that one's tough because I feel like both markets have pretty equal potential when it comes to the fact that they've had NFL teams taken away, the fact that there clearly are opportunities in both cities. I think Oakland might have the edge just because they had the Raiders taken away and then they had the A's taken away. I mean, that's a city that's hungry for sports. I mean, clearly they want some team to root for. So if you can get a team over there, Oakland would be a good fit. It's just a matter of could they actually logistically make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Hard to say. I mean, I think one thing we're looking for, if we're going to be talking about like options, you know, we saw in the PR, the community mention. I'm wanting to see what communities come to the league first. I think those are the ones that the league's going to be the most interested in is, oh, you want us? Well, let's focus on you. You know, that's what I'm watching for. What communities maybe come out and say their boards or their governing offices or whatever, like for recreation or like entertainment, come out and say something like, hey, we've contacted the UFL office. Because that happens. Local news agencies will report on that. I'm wanting to see if that happens first, because you will want a place much like how Birmingham was very forward with the USFL, that I think will want to come out and be the first guy to say, I'll take a crack at this. What's your rate? What do you need from us? We have nothing. Let's see if we can give you something. Put us on a national stage on Fox on a weekend. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. I love
Ref,
that.
I feel like you and I both had thoughts, and then we paused because we thought the other one was about to say something.
Well, you go ahead if you have something. And I probably had some nonsense that left my head.
I was gonna actually, Thorne, I'd be curious to get your opinion on a couple of things when it comes to expansion, because you're in DC, right? You're in a spot where you have an NFL team close by with the Commanders. You also have the Ravens not too far away, but DC still has really good turnouts. What avenue do you think makes more sense for a league like the UFL? Do you think they should stick to the markets more like a Seattle that already has NFL teams, that already has potential and already has had a good fan base despite having NFL teams? Or do you think the league should head down more of a route of a Columbus, Ohio, or an Oakland?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation. For the record, I'm much more like in Baltimore than DC, but there's a lot of teams around here. They're basically twin cities. I mean, they're like less than an hour apart. So there's a lot of football around here. And there's a lot of appetite for football around here. That's kind of the thing. It kind of goes hand in hand, right? There are football teams where people watch football because, that's how they, keep business. So I like the allure of like getting all these like, smaller cities or, the different little areas like, Columbus doesn't have a professional football team, and Columbus is different because they have Ohio State. So there's still a lot of football fans. Probably Louisville.
Ohio State.
Louisville is probably a better, like a place that isn't known for professional football. The concern there though, is if you go into that market, is there enough interest to have a team there? I don't think you clearly don't have to compete with the NFL, right? You're not going head to head with the NFL at all. And you see that with DC. When DC is good, and we'll kind of put that to the test now that Commanders are good. Before it was kind of in spite of the Commanders, why a lot of people fell in love with the Defenders. But I think that if DC's good in the spring, people are still going to go to DC games because it's a good time. You're watching football. There's not football on in the spring, right? You can follow the NFL offseason and still go to DC Defenders games. So I'm kind of with you where I think places like Seattle are probably better than not, unless there's like other sports that are really eating into the springtime. That would be the concern. Luckily the Wizards really bad. So that's not a concern for Defenders, right? They're not, it's going to eat in a little bit if they have to go head to head, but that's not as big of a concern. Whether, if you're a big basketball or baseball city, that might be more of a concern. But, Seattle, they have the NHL, so that would eat into it a little bit. And you saw that from 2020, they got the team in between, they lost fans. But I would say that would probably be the thing. If there's an NFL team, that's not a concern. It's more of what are you actually going head to head with?
True. It's very true. And I'll tell you, when we talk about, for example, like you mentioned Seattle, I will say Seattle, it's on my list of instant picks to go back. What I do find interesting though, and I know that the night games were bad at the time, I do want to see, if we get them a better, first off, you're going to see if you get them a better time slate where they're going to play in more of an afternoon setting. Second off though, and I think this was talked a little bit about it when we talked XFL 1.0 at one point, but it's a little bit of a different sports market now. They did add the Seattle Kraken. They're trying to get the next very short term. They're going to have the Supersonics back, same time frame as well. It's getting a lot more crowded for spring very fast in that market too. Still, I think it has the attention. We saw that, but that will cause different interest. Not that it's an exact same comparison, but you're going to be more crowded for that specific entertainment in that city. So just keep in mind, Columbus, I think, is one where it's it's great. You only got an MLS team, really. Ohio State is there, but can you tap into that college football market? Louisville, I think, is an even better one. I'm glad James brought it up because Louisville, to me, once you get through college basketball season, it's kind of it. There's football season's already well over and underway. I know it's a basketball state, but they got a wonderful, beautiful stadium right in the middle of downtown that I imagine if you could find some way to get a good deal to have more tenants there, there's possibilities. It comes down to the league office to negotiate, but that's sitting right there. It's a very lovely arena to go, or very lovely stadium to go to, that they could go to in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like Columbus, Louisville, those have to be the top two. I mean, those are the two that I've been hearing more than any of the others the last few months. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, right? I mean, it's spring football. It is fluid. Things can change at any given moment, as we've seen every single offseason in the last few years. So nobody quote me on the fact that I'm not saying we're going to see Columbus and Louisville, but those are definitely, when it comes to the markets that don't have NFL teams, those are two that are definitely higher up on the list than a lot of the others.
Well, what would be interesting to see, and again, this isn't based on anything I've heard. I don't know if anybody else has heard anything, but I know way back in the early days of the USFL, when you were talking about earlier, the crawl, walk, run situation, I know that, part of the goal, and I think even with the XFL, was to eventually look for outside investors, whether it be, on the team level or the league level. And so it could be an interesting twist out of this expansion piece if we see, as they start going into markets, interest from either local business people. I don't know where it ever filtered out or even how much of it was true, but I remember when the USFL was originally going into Memphis, there was talk, at least rumors, that maybe the folks at FedEx had a little bit more interest in the league than just hosting it at their stadium. Now, has anything come out of that? No, not really. Doesn't mean that conversations ever happened or stopped happening. No, doesn't matter either way. These types of things take a long time. Now, you throw a merger in the mix, I could see where that might delay some of these things, but I could see, or what would be interesting to see, is if they go into a place like Kentucky or Oakland, I feel like is a big one. I could see somebody out there seeing the opportunity of, okay, they just lost all their sports. We could probably get a good deal on this stadium. I got a little bit of money, and all I really need to do is sell them X amount of tickets a year to where I even out. And somebody might see the logic in that, and they might be able to make it work, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting things that this could lead us down that may not even be in motion right now. So, that's not nice.
Oh,
that's not nice.
Well, he's still here. He's not leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, get over it.
Well, speaking of leaving, I mean, we do have the topic of...
reason.
Never mind.
I was going to say there's a reason 55 people are watching. It's all because of me.
This man, the popcorn brings him in. They're asking, what's he doing with that popcorn besides eating?
And it's the Battlehawks trash talk, man. I mean, it's popular.
It's so... it's stirring the pot. Which, speaking of Battlehawks, we actually do have some Battlehawks stuff we could talk about.
We do.
The talk of the town besides expansion and the biggest TMZ type event you'll find in spring football in a very long time. The AJ McCarron, Anthony Beck scenario. Who did what? Who said what? And now you got teammates asking the question, did they want him out or not? I've seen defense of that claim online or rumor online. And I've also seen some other things being thrown around. And I think a greater discussion on Anthony Beck's comments is it about the success of the team and winning? Or is it about the mission of the league when it comes to a team picking a roster? That's what I think is the other thing that's very in light right now, because AJ could have come back, but we've seen with Anthony Beck on record saying, I wanted to give someone else another chance. Very fascinating because, hey, it's been a hot topic since this developmental scene's really kicked off a few years ago. What do you do?
You know where it leads me? This is just me being speculation zone, by the way. But this is where it kind of leads me into the speculation zone. If you're going to cut AJ McCarron, people have their opinions. People say what they want. But you know what? They did make it to the playoffs last year. They did well enough, even through injury, right? Now, to me, it feels like, okay, well, if they're going to get rid of him, and there wasn't necessarily a replacement that came in right away, it feels like maybe there's conversations happening that we're not aware of. Maybe there's somebody that Anthony Beck has his eye on, maybe somebody new to the league that we haven't, thought of quite yet. Is that what's going to happen? Maybe not. Maybe not at all. But that's where it initially takes me. Now we'll see. Now, could it have been handled better and done a little bit cleaner? Yeah, probably. There's been a couple situations in spring football, whether it's the UFL, the USFL, the XFL, the AAF, you name it. There's been a situation where it wasn't handled as clean as it should have been. Generally, it doesn't happen with the quarterback, so that is, I will say, a little surprising. But I don't know. Those are just my initial shooting from the hip ref thoughts, not based on anything. I'm curious what anyone's thoughts are.
The
Does
reaction
anyone agree?
locally, the reactions online were like it was ripping people's hearts out. I felt like it was a big like retirement type of thing in the way you treat, almost like we see some of the NFL players when they walk away or removed from a roster. So, I mean, again, clearly the market's embraced this team. It is very much in the same vein, I feel like, in terms of how they treat the Blues or in the way the Cardinals at times, the way that they're getting audience and how people are engaging with this brand. Mm-hmm. It made big news. Like St. Louis took this and it was a big discussion in that sector of the fandom and sports scene, but again, begs the question, because the league's mission is to do development. But at the same point, you see teams like the Birminghams of the world that they're going out, they're grabbing guys and trying to beef things up really quick and win championships. It's a hot topic. What do you do?
I think you get at something there, though. Obviously, this is, a topic I have a lot of thoughts on.
Cheeky?
When you look at, I'm not suggesting McCarron's going to Birmingham. I don't think that's a fit, but
I'm not getting into that at all, by the way. But I've seen that go around. People.
I will. He's not going to Birmingham. I can promise you.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of people saying he's not going to Birmingham.
They have some nice nursing homes for him to go to.
Damn.
He can go home and retire. For Birmingham, right? I think you really see exactly the model of what the UFL should be. They go out and they get the best players they possibly can every offseason. And they're also, coincidentally, the guys from the NFL, your Adrian Martinez's, your Matt Corral's. These quarterbacks are straight out of the NFL, and you see that they're parlaying that right back into the NFL. And that's kind of the model that I think is how you win championships, as we've seen them do better and better every year, is they just go out and they get better talent than everyone else. And, you look at a team like St. Louis, AJ McCarron was a perfect quarterback for them for 2 years. The success is what it is, right? They're what they were 14-6 over 2 regular seasons with AJ McCarron. He missed a few games in there. It was probably like 12-5 or whatever the record was when
Still
he was starting.
Plenty of winning, plenty of offense.
Yes, and he was a good quarterback, in a tough scheme, an NFL pro style scheme to figure it out. But at this point, I feel like he's 34. You're only getting the decline of AJ McCarron year over year. He's not going to suddenly break out next year and be better than what he was the previous 2 years. And even though other teams, I think you look at a Memphis, you look at,
Houston,
Arlington, Houston, but I don't think they fit what they're trying to do. I think Arlington and Memphis are the two teams that if I'm betting on a team going out and getting AJ McCarron, those are the teams I think would do it. That fit what they do, or at least what I think they'll do in Memphis's case, because we really kind of don't know what their deal is. They have 6 guys signed with the new administration.
With Ken Wisenhunt, I think that's the key. Is
being you think it would be pro
guy,
He was in college for the last couple of years, so maybe they go for more of a college scheme. He gets a college coordinator for their offensive coordinator. We don't know, but I think it's time for them to move on, and it's time for them to go out and get a guy. Who that guy is, I think there's a lot of options available right now. Even guys who they talked a lot about getting a guy straight off a practice squad. There's obviously tons of options in that case of guys who are on a team right now. They'll be available in January. But, just the guys who are available right now, you look at Trace McSorley, Ian Book, John Wolford. There's a bunch of guys out there that they could go out and get and still be that kind of pro style, NFL vet, been in the NFL a bunch of years, can handle, all that. Yes, I'm sorry, James. AJ McCarron's keeping Holt Nailers on the bench.
James Baker, shout out to you, bud.
But I think it's time for them to move on. And you've seen this offseason, they haven't had like a super aggressive offseason like San Antonio has, but they've gone out and gotten, Denzel Mims and Andy Isabella. They've gone out and gotten like NFL guys or guys who've had a lot of experience in the NFL, high draft picks. I think that's what their plan is right now. And I don't think they necessarily have some guy that they're definitely just about to sign either. I think they are like, okay, we know we got to get younger. We got to get some new faces in this quarterback room. We're going to do right by AJ McCarron, give him a few months to figure out what he wants to do. And I think all the issues just came from some miscommunications and, maybe some bitterness there.
Can we?
Yeah, I think.
I'll let James go. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. James, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the main thing with like you said, the miscommunication. I just think a lot of this drama would have been avoided had things been communicated more clearly to AJ, because obviously he knew that the cut was coming. It just they kind of dropped it publicly without him really knowing that it was going public, which I can see why he got upset about that. When it comes to landing spots, I don't know if any of you caught it, but I was on the end zone a few days ago, just talking about where AJ could be going, what options are. And realistically, as far as I can tell, the realistic landing spot for him would be DC, and that's about it. And there's a few things to go behind that. One, would Birmingham be nice and a great story for the league? Sure. But from what a Birmingham source told me, he's absolutely not going to Birmingham. The Stallions have no interest in him at all. Like Thorne said, they're looking for the young NFL guys coming out of camp here. Can they go get Matt Corral back, or could they maybe somehow get Alex Magoo back? We'll see. I mean, I think Alex just signed back to Green Bay, but regardless, they're looking for those sorts of prototypes. They're not going to be going for a 34, going on 35-year-old quarterback. Memphis and Houston are two teams that really wouldn't be a fit for AJ at all, because neither one of them are probably going to be playoff teams. I mean, could you imagine CJ Johnson with AJ McCarron?
Listen to this guy?
That would be peak cinema. That would be some hilarious mic'd up moments, but it would be a disaster. Memphis, I don't see him being a fit for either, just because we don't really know what to expect from the Showboats quite yet. And frankly, AJ's not going to go to a team that he's not confident in that can win a championship. He's not going to go to a team that was 2-8 or 1-9 last season. He's just not.
But if he knows the script as well as I do,
he knows the script.
12-0.
He can't get them to a championship, so he wants to go to a team that can get him there.
Exactly. That to me would be the more realistic fit for him. Would be a team like DC. San Antonio, they just went out and signed Kellen Mond. Why would they bring in Mond, a guy who multiple teams have been trying to get for years and years and years? Why would they get Mond just to bring in AJ? That would be unfair to Mond, and AJ wouldn't go there to be QB2, so that would just be a mess.
Right.
Arlington, like Thorne said, potential, but I've talked to a couple people around the league, and they're very confident that Luis Perez is going to be returning. And if he does,
interesting.
Why would McCarron wouldn't even really be an upgrade over Perez, in my opinion. At least in that system, Perez is the guy that's been there a couple of years. And is AJ maybe a slightly better pure passer? Maybe, but I don't see him being that much an upgrade to. I don't see Arlington saying, "Hey, Luis, you know what? We're going to bring in AJ. You can just go retire." No way. They want Perez back, and I'm pretty sure Perez will be going back. So that to me leaves. And Michigan's another team. He wouldn't fit. AJ would not fit in Michigan's scheme at all. And they've already got Bryce Perkins, EJ Perry, and Danny Etling all returning. You don't need AJ McCarron. You just don't.
I'm representing two people today, and I will gladly say that would make no sense to pick him up after who they've grabbed in this offseason. So, no, thank you. The Memphis one, to me, the only reason I lean Memphis would be because of Wisenhunt being the OC minded. And I don't know if you have confidence in Quentin Dormady carrying you for a year. If you're watching, he's been serviceable as a backup.
There's no way.
Cannot carry a whole season, though. We've seen this play out twice. If Luis Perez has any chance of returning, I mean, we all know this, guys. Luis Perez wasn't the reason the Renegades were not up to snuff last year.
Right.
It was some organizational failures coupled with defensive deficiencies that did not play in their favor in many contests down the stretch. So Perez is not the problem. It's the other side of the ball. I think they needed more addressing, and they made some moves this offseason, I think, that do make that. So fascinating team when we discuss preview, but limited choices, but I don't know. Thorne, I saw him wince when James said that. I'm like, that's going to be fun. He lands.
I don't think DC is the spot for him. I don't think it makes sense at all.
I don't think so either, Thorne. I'm just saying from what I know, DC would be the only spot that would make a little bit of sense.
Breaking news, guys. Breaking news. Did
I don't
you guys
think DC
see the
should sign him.
transaction that just came through the wire?
New transactions?
Yep. AJ McCarron to the DC Defenders.
Is that for real?
No.
His mouth. dropped.
Yo.
I did look. You got me there. I did
I
look.
I was ready to pull it up.
It is that time too.
If that happened, you would see a crash out live on ATU.
I was lit up.
I don't think it's a fit at all. What DC likes to do with having super mobile quarterbacks, they like the Jordan Teamus, De'Ara Kings. They just went out and got Emory Jones, who kind of fits that profile too.
Exactly, Nick.
A drop back passer doesn't make any sense in the scheme they have. They're very college, mobile quarterback, zone run scheme team.
Yeah,
that
Nick
doesn't fit what AJ does at all.
Nick, I'm with you 100%. I'm just saying that if AJ really wanted to play somewhere, DC's the only spot that would realistically have any shot of giving him a chance. You know what I mean? Like
he would want to go to.
That's what I'm saying. Like there wouldn't be any spot for him else to go. Michigan wouldn't want him. Birmingham doesn't want him. He wouldn't want Houston or Memphis. San Antonio, I don't think would want him. Arlington doesn't want him. St. Louis doesn't want him. I don't think DC wants him, but if he wants to play in the UFL, I'm just saying that if I was going to bet on where he would go, DC would be like, the odds would be the highest for them. And
this is something interesting I just thought of, is maybe he does the thing that you look at what Daniel Jones is doing right now is
that was good. That was good.
That was really good. Where he kind of waits and just sees how things shake out. And let's say you're San Antonio in week 3, Chase Garber's getting hurt, right? But you're a team that has some championship aspirations. He waits and then, waits for an injury to happen. Let's say Arlington's looking really good and Perez gets hurt. That might be a scenario for him to potentially okay, nothing's obvious right this second, but he kind of just sits on his hands and knees and say, okay, let's just wait. Yeah. that was not great. Yeah. We'll move on from that. But he waits it out and says okay, let's see if an opportunity presents itself. And if not, he just retires. That could be a scenario where we see week 7 or, mid-season him decide, okay, maybe it's St. Louis, maybe it's, their quarterback situation. They can't find it. And it's an awkward kind of reunion. Which would be kind of funny.
I've seen that floated around. Ta'amu possibly is one. Maybe he comes back. It's I don't know. Is he? I don't know. Just be funny. No. I don't know if that's the right choice.
I think it's a logistics thing.
Is the biggest question mark in the QB setup right now. That's the big one people are waiting on. What is his move?
Ta'amu?
No.
What quarterback was that? Sorry.
Zach. I was just saying matter of factly. Te'amu's been floated by the community as one, as watch this dream scenario happen. The prodigal son from 2020 comes home, yada yada yada. But
throws an interception.
I don't know if that's the case. That's the thing. I feel like it's more of the way he commented. It's probably going to be someone who is a new face or somebody looking for that spot. So, and James, you brought this up while this was happening. They do have a QB. While I understand other obligations that they did draft just in case. They were trying to see if they could coerce from San Diego State over, but still has to wait and see if that'll ever come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, Siobhan Cordero is a guy that St. Louis had from San Jose State. He's a free agent as far as I know, right, Nick?
Yeah, no, he's
available.
He's been a free agent. He's been a free agent the whole time. I don't know if that hasn't happened yet. Honestly, I don't know what the deal is.
From what I've been told, they were going to have some more discussions as training camp got closer. So, and that was a few months ago that I was told that. So,
but you can sign someone and then cut them, right?
Right.
There's no
absolutely.
For me, if they're it's the same thing with Houston where they still have a few guys that have been a free agent the whole time. I don't get why you don't just sign them and then later on.
I think half of it
plans
is
change.
You
can, yeah. I mean, for what? That's kind of we're getting into late November now.
But I think some of them, are just like, I just want to focus purely on getting another NFL opportunity. And
Yeah.
I
get that
think we'll
for,
see
like,
less of that as
know.
the league sticks around and as more players realize that, hey, this is the way I can get to an NFL training camp rather than just trying to get my workout film sent to teams. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see more of that, I think, moving forward. We're already seeing a lot of it. I mean, Houston did sign like what, 6 of their guys, give or take, from this past draft class, and St. Louis has signed like 5 of them, and Michigan signed a few. So we're seeing more and more of it. That's for sure.
Mhm.
It's getting
Yeah.
better. I think you're seeing players convinced that, like, hey, with the added avenues that are coming up in football that are becoming more and more present, discussion on value pending, a lot more ways you can go about it to get film that have been proven that you can move up a step. Even if we're talking the longer game picture just to play, I got to give shout out to the arena indoor scene, because now we're seeing guys that are using that to springboard to the second level BCFL, UFL conversation. So, there are other ways too. If you need more film, or if they are like, hey, we want to look at you, but we also need maybe a little more competition on the pro level. That's what's seeming to be happening. It's a good movement right now. A lot more people are buying in than it used to be maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing, like, as like leagues like the UFL have kind of like survived year over year, and this infrastructure is there. There's more of a pipeline from like jumping from one to the other to the other to the other, right? Because if you go back a decade, it was like, okay, you go to the CFL and hope to stick there, or you go to arena ball. And now it's like, okay, if you're an arena guy, you don't have to make the jump right to the NFL, right? You can do the arena thing to go to the CFL, go to the UFL, and like hope to stick on a roster there. And then if you do good, you do the Cavante Turpin, there's a bunch of different levels you can jump up. And instead of it being like, oh, I have to go straight from, this gig where, like arena ball, you're making $500 a game or whatever, all the way to being in the NFL. So I think that's something we'll see and continue to see. The Memphis just signed that cornerback from it was the IFL, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Rivarius Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very good CB over in the IFL. Good pickup there from that scene. So really hope he gets to get his crack on field as well. Otherwise, minimum special teams alone, so far we haven't heard any changes to that rule, but we're also under the belief waiting to see if maybe they're waiting for the end of the NFL season. So, I'm not fully sold.
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets changed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
God.
Angry grumbling.
Well, speaking of the Showboat
No one
signing
listens.
defensive players, they've signed a few former Maulers, so that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, they're building a nice little roster over there. Boogie Roberts, Nasir Player, and Eli Walker have all been brought in, and Isaiah Green May. Guys that were all part of that championship squad in 2023. So
yeah,
Somebody sat there, looked at the Maulers from 2023, and they're like, wow, that was a good team.
I want that.
yeah,
wonder
maybe
who
just
that
a
could
little
be.
bit.
I'll
Only
say,
time will tell.
looking at Memphis, I think it's interesting because they're so behind, right? They're
Yeah.
basically
Whoa.
starting over.
We're so far ahead, it looks like we're behind.
Yeah.
It's called lapping, buddy.
It's called getting screwed because
No,
you
it's
got a
called
head coach
lapping.
a month ago.
We're this far ahead.
So they were in a rough spot coming into this offseason, whether they lost their coaching staff or not. They were looking to revitalize that roster. I think it was probably the weakest roster in the UFL last year. Like they're the furthest away talent-wise to like winning in the league. And because of that, they were already a team that needed to kind of like build a new core, and really, especially on defense, their defense there wasn't much positives to come away from that defense. There's going to be maybe
Jordan
a couple
Ferguson,
guys
who they traded away, by the way.
but even like Kyrie Woods was solid, like it was like a couple
And even
of
then,
guys
he
that
wasn't
you're
anything to write home about. Like he played really well in 2023,
like they were like,
but
oh, that's a guy.
He gave up 4 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks this season. So
yeah, they're guys that like you're probably gonna keep around, but like there's no one that you're excited about. Like, and so obviously, like right now they are hitting the like easy wins, right? These are guys who couldn't stick around in the UFL. These are guys that didn't survive the merger at all, even to get into a training camp last year, right? and guys that obviously fit their scheme. And that's all great, but I'm really interested to see, as they kind of got late to recruiting, what their December and January looks like when they are not just, okay, we're bringing, we're getting the band back together, we're getting all these players. What are these are the guys straight out of the NFL that we're getting. And what is, especially on offense, like, because we really don't know. They got 2 players right now, like, that we know this new staff likes. So what is the scheme? What is the plan? What is the vision? I think it's interesting that we just kind of don't know. Whereas every other team you got a vibe for because they've had a full year and they've made way more signings. Memphis is a team to watch, especially in December. I feel like they just have to ramp up, right? Because training camp's around the corner, right? We're talking, what is that, like 2.5 months that we're going to be
sneaking up on you real fast.
So like they, and they're not the only one. I think you look at DC, you look at Arlington, they've been kind of like lagging behind on the moves. Some teams like San Antonio and Houston are kind of set, or at least got like, 90% of what they're going to be going into camp with. But like, that's a team that I'm keeping a close eye on, right? Because I'm not saying this will eventually happen, but there is a concern that's like, hey, Memphis was bad because they thought, hey, let's just get a all USFL team together and that'll be good enough. And it wasn't good enough. So
too many Asian guys.
Out. Yeah, they got to go out, and they can't just be like, we're going to just bring back the 2023 Pittsburgh Maulers. We need to go out and make a better defense than the 2023 Pittsburgh Maulers. The competition is better than the USFL in 2023. So that's really what I'm keeping an eye on, and something that I'm excited about, because I think it's something that, no other team's really in this position where they're not married to anybody. They can blow it up and start over.
It's going to be a fun season. And it is crazy how close we're getting. We're at Thanksgiving, which means we really have about a month left until generally the news starts picking up. Now, the thing that the league has done really good this year is they've filled out the offseason with news. Now, last year we'll put an asterisk. I don't think you can judge the league on last year because you had the merger, and so going into the merger, it was like dead silence on both sides. But even if you look at the USFL in the first 2 seasons, there was almost this lag where it was a slow build up, and then you got to December, and then January came, and then it was boom, 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 all the way till the season. And we're almost to that point with the addition of some extra news. The fact that we have the Showboats head coach, we have a good amount of signings. We're talking about expansion here that came from the league, and not just, speculation, or this coach said this on a podcast. Like, this came from the league. Now, again, is there a whole lot of details? No. Is there cities? No. But you know what? The fact that they're even mentioning it, and we still have a month before the news starts coming, gives me hope that we're going to see a good amount of promotion. I want to see it. And you know what? I'll tell you this. Houston, the one thing I knocked them on last year was we had a couple fan meet and greets, but they didn't really go out of their way to have a lot of them. And I felt like you needed a lot of them because you were doing a change of venue. You were at Rice Stadium, this and that. We've already had like 2 or 3 Houston Roughnecks meet and greets, and we're not even in December yet. So that gives me hope. And then we're going back to TDECU. So I anticipate we're going to see a little bit bump in attendance just from familiar location. I hate to be mean to Rice Stadium, but better location in so many regards. Now, Rice had a nice field, but TDECU has a much nicer facility to go around that field. Better seats, club section, shade. Oh my God. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. And you know what? It is Thanksgiving coming up, so I'm going to get fat. I'm going to get fed. I'm ready. I'm going to the grocery store right after this to go buy food.
Very nice.
I think something that Ref really hit on is something that I've thought about here, where this is what status quo is for this league now, right? Like, this offseason is like the first normal offseason we've had in spring football, right? Because you look at,
you're an XFL fan, sure.
You look at the
oh, dang.
Ouch. You look at the USFL 2022 to 23, they had to deal with the XFL coming back, and then the XFL 23, USFL 23 going into, them merging in that next offseason. This is the first time where everything's kind of chill, and it was interesting to see, like, how are they going to keep themselves notable in October and November when, people who are not a sicko like me, who's like watching the transaction log, is how do they keep them interested in talking about the league? And so I think they've done a pretty good job of that. It's been pretty consistently every like 2 weeks. They'll have, an AJ McCarron. They'll have, some topic that'll come up.
Schedule,
off season,
footprints, and all sorts of things.
Yeah. So that's something that, like, not only is that cool in its own right, but it's also kind of setting the standard for what an off season looks like going forward. Obviously, if things go to plan, we'll have some, it'll be a few years before we have another normal off season, right? Because we're going to have to deal with expansion for a couple seasons now, and the weirdness with like expansion drafts and all that sort of stuff. But for at least now, it's kind of like, okay, this is the standard now, right? This is how we do, James did a great job with the like allocation process, right? And uncovering that whole thing and understanding, like, okay, how are they getting players to the teams and how does this all work, right? That's really what I think is the takeaway from all this. But
yeah, absolutely, Nick. And I'll tell you, it's there. Yeah, the leading along, keeping the Nuggets moving forward, and honestly, showing that, as Daryl and as Russ Brand have been talking, now we have normalcy to build. No more chaos in a merger. No more throwing this together and seeing what works. You're seeing teams put organizations together. We're seeing in-market staffing going like that. So it's great. Hey, as I've talked, if Jake was on here, we'd be praising the fact Michigan's getting a staff that's going to be in market next season to help with what was we felt was a very underserved market last year. So, and the recommitment to Detroit. But that's the point, the side of the point. All I'm saying is a lot of good stuff in the pipeline and a lot of good stuff ahead for us on ATU. We're just now, I feel like this is the true churning back point of us getting really back into the nitty gritty on this thing post Thanksgiving coming up. You're going to see a lot coming again. We still got a schedule. I see some people talking about it, here or in the chat, apparently.
Well, what else we have coming up?
200 days.
You know what else we have coming up, which should be dropping. I don't have a specific date, but it'll be after Thanksgiving, probably before December, maybe December. Mm-hmm. Best of year end. Right. So we'll have the fan poll. Coming. We'll have the fan poll out there, and we'll probably just do a special episode of ATU near the end of the year, probably between Christmas and New Year. And, let your voices be heard. So we'll get a link. We'll update. We'll get you the whole deal, the whole thing. But if you haven't had a chance, go watch every other best of, and so you can get an idea. And then you get your poll fingers ready.
Stay tuned on PFN social, by the way, at PFN Newsroom on your favorite social media platform. So we'll be posting that out, gentlemen. Before we go, we do have the points to divvy up, and I have set. Yep, you get that. I'll explain something. So I haven't told you, gentlemen, but here is what I have decided on us finally making a decision on said points.
Okay.
So here's the thing. The first episode of ATU that we started this show with was January 15th of this year. Will be a 1-year anniversary mid-January. By mid-January, we will have our 1-year decision on what will be the points winner and what we do with the said points. Now, to be fair, we will have discussions about, say, certain cats winning it or certain massive bonus point add-ons, and maybe we'll lean a little bit more into the regulars. But for the time being, we will have something to announce the points winner on the mid-January episode that is next for our 1-year anniversary of Around the UFL, which is coming fast, by the way. It's amazing. It's almost been a year that we have been doing these live shows. But I would say, guys, it's been a wonderful almost year so far with you gentlemen. A lot of fun times on this show. Hopefully many more conversations and interviews we can hopefully try and get ahead. So, good times. But that is the decision now for the points. So everyone, I'll give you, as I've been doing, 10 points base is what I'm going to say. So everyone gets minimum 10. Okay. We'll start things out here. So Ducky, give you a bonus. Mel's coming back for the anniversary. To be determined. You might want to come back in January for that. If I win points challenge, can I get a year subscription to Ducky OnlyFans? The answer? Find out in January.
Yeah.
James, just for that statement, I don't think Holden Allers will ever play another snap for Arlington ever again.
He wasn't going to anyways.
I was going to beat to it.
Where's my jug of bleach? I'm going to give Ducky here 15 points. He had the cat on video and the hat.
So let me ask you this. Is that 15 plus the 10 or 15 all up?
10 is the base plus 5 for any
Okay.
bonuses.
All right.
So
all right. I'm just
a
making sure I
heads up.
get these numbers right. Okay. Got it.
Oh, nice job. Nick, you know what?
Trying to get some extra points.
Way to take a cue. Oh, we'll get that little guy. 15 points for the great takes and the cat in hand as well. Cat bonus works as well. Stefan, Mr. Ref, because of many of your wondrous Houston mannerisms that I have to add on, 14 points indubitably. There wasn't a cat. That's the only thing I got to give you. I know you got
in
a cat.
here somewhere.
I know you have a cat.
Where
It's just
are
not
you,
there.
you little? All
Right, Zach, I don't have a cat, but I do have a relic, the special announcement pass from Detroit with USFL.
20 points. You said Detroit
Hey.
and USFL. 20 points instantly.
Let's go.
Plus, some of that also comes from the analysis, of course. 20 points to James. I will award myself the base 10. And I'm going to let
Zach,
the
you
field as
get at
always
least
pick my
another
point.
5 for being a great
Yeah.
host today.
I agree.
15 points for me, gentlemen.
All right.
Bam.
As we finish up. Is that Appa, by the way, Ducky? I thought that's Appa. Oh,
He's a good
Nick, what's
girl.
your cat's name again? I forget.
Raven.
Raven. Dang.
Wolf
Wow.
doesn't get on screen, but yeah.
Why is it named Raven?
After the bird, weirdly enough, not the team.
Oh, the Baltimore thing. This feels like a Baltimore thing.
It's not.
Wow.
I was going to tell you to put the cat in the elevator with me. See what happens.
End the stream.
Gentlemen, it's been a great show. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Great to see so many tuned out. We've been gone for a little ways, but trust me, we've got more shows on the pipeline. We got more stuff coming this year. It's only the first year of ATU. Think about that we're not even done with yet. So stay tuned. There's plenty ahead. A great season of UFL actions coming your way. Check out the league stuff and, check us out again at pfnewsroom.com for all your latest updates. James has been cranking out stuff like a madman, and we're going to have plenty more things once we get things sorted out for the season ahead, as we always do. At UFL Podcast, at Around the UFL as well. Both of those on your favorite podcast platforms. And me and the ref will have an episode, I think, this week. I think we're planning this week, it sounds like. He was hinting at it. We're going to try and get that done. Stay tuned for that as well. We need to get together. Yeah. Folks, till next time, see you around, and back on the other side. Thanks for the episode, everyone.
For now, Arlington still sucks.